The #1 movie in America is Billy Madison.
Billy's #1!
He's got the move.
Are you some kind of idiot?
The look. The brains.
Oh, really, Ford? Really?
But to get his inheritance, he needs a diploma.
Class, say hello to Billy Madison.
Adam Sandler.
Now you're all in big trouble.
Billy Madison.
You want some more of that? I didn't think so!
Rated PG-13. Now playing.
Molly, come sit.
When you're through providing your own action for the evening, it's Blockbuster's turn. With 9,000 ways to make it a blockbuster night.
The moon is rising. The passion is growing. The animal is out. Nicholson. Pfeiffer. Wolf. From Columbia TriStar Home Video, rated R.
Taco. 79 for a taco supreme. 79. Eat what I like, pay what I should. Cross the border, change is good.
Thursday, Gina tells Martin to choose his best man.
That's easy for you to say, baby. You got Pam as your best man.
On a brand new Martin Thursday, part of Fox's Wild Adventures at Mardi Gras. Brought to you by 1-800-COLLECT, the way to save on collect calls.
Did you ever wonder what life is like on other planets? Like maybe there's this world where everybody can slam dunk? And everyone gets a Ford Ranger just for being born. Or there's a planet where nothing costs more than $1 and your biggest decision is what color probe to drive. Maybe there's a world where everybody's job is just to go to the beach and you get a Mustang convertible as a company car. Ford. Cool cars for a cool planet.
The most acclaimed movie of the year, nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Actor, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Picture of the Year.
That's a bold statement.
Pulp Fiction, rated R, now playing.
Bigger than the Titanic.
Why didn't you tell me this was a cruise for fat women?
You didn't ask me.
More fun than the Poseidon Adventure.
We should have left that at home.
Should have left this at the altar.
The Bundys go on a luxury cruise.
It's like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
From hell.
Only I'm married to the giant squid.
A brand new Married with Children tonight.
Hello, I'm the critic. On my show, you'll get action.
You didn't like the Lion King.
Adventure. Romance. Wow, I can't believe I'm on a date with Cher. I got you, babe.
The Critic. Premieres Sunday, March 5th after The Simpsons.
Kids like Jerry sometimes wish their lives were different.
Nice swing.
I'm so slow. It would have been cool to go fast.
But now they're learning.
I have a plan.
There's nothing better
We're as good as anybody.
Take him down, Cappy.
than being yourself. Heavyweight, a big new comedy from the creator of The Mighty Ducks, rated PG, starts Friday, February 17th.
Once again, Jolly Rancher puts maximum taste in a minimum space with new Jolly Rancher Tropical Blends candy. Fruit fusion of massive proportion. You can experiment with all 5 exotic combinations. New Jolly Rancher Tropical Blends, the great taste of fruit, squared.
Have you had your break today? We all need to get away. There's one place
Please don't tell me nobody heard that. Why did the settings change? Oh my god. Because, like, okay, I want you to see something. So, you're seeing this right here, which is the audio level. It wasn't there whenever I first started streaming, and I didn't notice that. And so, I apologize if you didn't hear me talking for the first couple of minutes. At least the desktop volume was on, so that's good. But, as I was saying, or trying to say, okay, let me backtrack now that I know that my microphone physically was on. It's just that the audio mixer didn't have the microphone set to the actual device that it's supposed to be on, which is this. Now, okay, going back to what I was trying to say. Radical Rewind first started off as just a simple live stream series. But then it dawned on me, why not make my own alternative universe and make that what Radical Rewind is? Only the universe itself wouldn't be called Radical Rewind. But as you'll notice in the title, it says Welcome to Radical Earth. That's literally what this version of Earth is called, is Radical Earth. So, you're probably wondering, what is Radical Earth supposed to look like? Well, if you really want to know, basically Radical Earth takes place in the same time as, our Earth, as in present day. However, many of the fashion trends and many of the aesthetics that you would see in Radical Earth, which was originally just going to be called Radical Earth R, meaning replica, but then I thought, no, that sounds like a simulation, but it's an alternative universe. But as such, I dropped the R because I didn't want to make it sound like some kind of computer simulation. It's a simulation, man! But basically, the overall idea of Radical Earth is that it takes place in present day, so right now is the time that Radical Earth would be. And I even went so far as to make my own alter ego. Don't you fucking dare. Don't. I'm on to you. I hope you see what I'm talking about. But this has been happening so often these past few days. But, basically, Radical Earth R's overall inspiration as to what it's supposed to look like is inspired by please don't. I see it doing that. Because, I know you probably can't see it all that well, but the signal bar goes down by 1, and it just quickly goes back. But, here's what I mean. So, the overall inspiration for how Radical Earth is supposed to look is inspired heavily by Back to the Future's depiction of 2015. Speaking of which, last night while I was waiting for my drivers to update on my PC, I actually watched the second and third Back to the Future. I watched the first one yesterday morning, but while I was waiting for things to update on my computer, I watched the other two movies. I haven't watched the bonus disc, but I'll watch that at a later point, probably this weekend. But, the key difference between Radical Earth and the hyper stylized 2015 is that, for one, it doesn't take place in 2015. It takes place present day, just like us. However, the key difference is that, for one, there are no hover cars in Radical Earth. The reason being is because that technology had not been made. I don't know why I'm stuttering. But instead, there are special kinds of vehicles for those in the minority who don't have a driver's license or who are teenagers who want to drive but still want to be safe. You know, like safety-conscious people. So, a man by the name of... Let me get my phone, that's not the name. I'm gonna turn on my fan so I'm not cooking here. Oh, there we go. Alright, yeah, I made a post like 6 hours ago about this on Facebook. So, it says here, Radical Rewind Trivia. The overall inspiration for Radical Rewind setting is based on two different things. Those being the concept of a revival of the 80s and 90s era of fashion and technology, as well as the Back to the Future depiction of the year 2015. Again, key difference, no hover cars, and while the technology is back, as well as the key aesthetic of the 80s and 90s, that doesn't mean it takes place in that time era. However, in place of the hover vehicles, which there are still regular cars in Radical Earth, so don't worry, it's not like the cars are replaced with a new type of vehicle. It is a type of vehicle called an eco car, or eco vehicle, and it gets its name because it's better for the environment, quite literally. As in, the emissions that it produces are basically water vapor with non-toxic chemicals. The creator of the eco vehicle is inventor Jarvis Yeager, and he came up with a concept for an easy-to-use vehicle for teenagers and those who may not have a driver's license, or people who are just safety conscious. Basically, people who are worried that they might get hurt. So basically, that's what the EV is for. It is a safety... I messed that up. It is essentially a automobile, but with safety features like a reinforced body that makes it extremely resilient to crashes, and it does not use gasoline. It's not electric either. It uses an eco fuel, which is, like I said, essentially water, but with fuel-based chemicals made by scientists who have made a special type of reusable fuel that can be remade over and over and over again. And so that's where the whole concept of the EV comes in, is that it is a vehicle that is literally completely safe for the environment, is completely safe for the user, and is very easy to use. It still has the traditional driving controls, you know, like changing gears and stuff, but it's extremely easy to use, and even people who may not be exactly old enough legally to drive, they could still drive it, albeit it's still illegal, but it's meant for people who may be worried about actually driving. And one other cool thing about these vehicles is that many of them, as in like roughly 75% of the EV vehicles, are made to resemble in some way, shape, or form vehicles from the 80s and the 90s. A key example is, I just saw a notification on my phone and someone said, "The memories!" It was someone commenting on one of my recently uploaded videos. But as I was saying, so about 75% of the eco vehicles or eco car vehicles are roughly based or almost entirely inspired by vehicles of the 80s and 90s, and a few of them from the 70s. However, some of the EVs are made to be modern or futuristic in design. However, as I stated earlier, these vehicles do not hover, as that technology had not been invented yet. After all, the timeline of which Radical Earth takes place is literally the same as us. So, say for example, it is 9:20 here. It is 9:20 in the Radical Earth version of Texas. But one other thing I should mention is that the many various locations around the world have their own, not exactly parody version, just more alternative reality version. For example, the city I live in, which I just shortened into NRH, it goes under a slightly different name, because I live in a place called North Richland. NRH, North Richland Hills. You would know if you live around where I live. But, on Radical Earth, it is known as North Ridgefield, North Ridgefield Hills. So it goes under a slightly different name, but it's quite literally the same exact place. Also, hey, it hasn't cut out yet. Nice. Maybe that update I got really did help. Oh, right. So another thing, and this is one of those weird sort of things that has to do with how the alternative reality version of our own world works. And it's how they treat large parks. I don't mean national parks or anything like that. I'm talking about like parks that are near neighborhoods or something like that. And it is a initiative that had started pretty recently, according to Radical Earth lore. And it is called the Park Township Initiative. And essentially what that is an initiative that enables large enough parks to have zones that are sanctioned for the future development of, say, a moderately moderately sized shopping center, a good-sized apartment complex where people can take up residence. You could even have a gas station store, which I'll get to that in a second, because I have something really freaking cool about that. But basically, it's sort of like a small town, but within a local park. And it was created by Radical Earth's U.S. President, who I have not named yet, because I can't... it's hard to think of names on the fly, alright? And it's not going to be Joe Biden. Or the other person that we had previously. But whenever I do come up with a name, I'll let y'all know. in a later Radical Rewind stream. Uh-oh. I saw something on my phone and I thought, oh, another comment. But no, it's just Jared Gwines, who has made that epic Nerf battle video, or not video, but he's the Texan who's well known for the Jared's epic Nerf battle, which I've never been to ever, but they look super fun. But for one, I'm not athletic. Second of all, it's not even local to me, because like I said, I live all the way in North Richland Hills in Tarrant. This is all the way in frickin' Dallas. I can't walk there. And even if I could, I'm not gonna lug around like a boatload of Nerf guns like I'm some kind of army soldier going into a battlefield like, ah! But it does look fun from what I've seen. They unfortunately could not do it last year, and not this year, I don't think. Unless they're waiting for a later point this year because, you know, vaccines and all that stuff. Anyway, so going to that gas station thing, or in this case, it's called an all-in-one convenience store. And this is something really, really cool that I came up with kind of recently. Mainly due to a childhood experience that I had that's been stuck in my head, even though I haven't really been to this place that much. But, who here knows 7-Eleven? If you raise your hand, then you're awesome. Hell, you're awesome anyway, even if you don't know it. So, the reason why I bring up 7-Eleven is because of the Radical Earth version of it called 5 to 9, which, of course, the name is a play on words with 9 to 5, which is a saying talking about someone's workday. But in this case, it's talking about the actual operation hours of the business itself. It runs from 5 in the morning to 9 in the evening. Now you're probably thinking, so this place is inspired by 7-Eleven, right? So what's so special about 5 to 9? As I mentioned, it is an all-in-one convenience store. Essentially, I'm talking about a convenience store that does way more than what a normal convenience store would do. And I'm not just talking about, oh, it serves EV vehicles. You know, the thing I was talking about earlier. That's not just it. These people are super kind. They have the best-in-class service. They have amazing management. They have everything. Like, when I'm talking about an all-in-one convenience store, I'm not just talking about any snack you want, any drink you want, and I haven't even talked about the freezies. Alright, I'll get to those in a second. When I say all-in-one convenience store, you bet your ass I mean all-in-one. You can buy electronics, you can buy a video game, you can buy TVs, the whole shebang. Now about those freezies, I don't know if you know this, but I hear 7-Eleven's got Slurpees. Well, 9 to 5 has freezies. Freezies are essentially what the Slurpees are, but better. You can choose whatever flavor you want. You can customize your drink. You could put soft drinks, you could have custom flavors in there. Don't do pickle though. They actually don't allow that. So basically they have a massive list of the flavors and additional items that you can put into your freezy. And the prices are really good. You got $1.25 for small. You got $1.75 for medium, and for large you have $2.25. Or you could get the Giga Gulp, which is like, if you want to be, if you're really curious, it's basically like, okay, it's from this right here all the way to like right here. This big bitch, which is nice. They of course have their snack combos, so you know. One moment. Yeah, sorry about that. My mom wanted me to call her, and she was asking if I wanted to go on a trip. As much as I'd like to, I just wasn't really interested. But, getting back to what I was saying. So they have, snack menus. They even have a dining area, which is pretty cool. But, I think probably the hottest item, other than the freezies that they sell, is the Prize Pass. So you're probably thinking, what on earth is the Prize Pass? I hear someone loading shit into the dishwasher. That means I'm gonna have to do it in the morning. Hooray. Fucking wonderful. Why do people have to make such loud noises with a sink? Anyway, oh, cool, it's an actual DeLorean. That is actually what the DeLorean's supposed to look like. There's no devices or any kind of tube thingies on it. No, it's just straight up gold wing, stainless steel finish, beauty. I'll actually get back to the DeLorean in a little bit whenever I get back to EV vehicles. But the prize pass is essentially a lotto ticket, but it's not just cash prizes. You can win more than just cash prizes. You can win limited edition shirts made by 5 to 9 and other companies that may partner up with 5 to 9. But then we have the bigger prizes like game console bundles. You got computers with a few games. And they even have a monthly prize. And it's not one of those dinky little, oh, you're just gonna get a silverware set. No. I'm talking friggin' a new car, basically. So talking a bit about the Radical Earth lore and how my character plays into it. So, Radical Earth and Radical Rewind itself, there's no overarching story, there's no, oh, there's villains and stuff. It's all in good fun, you know, it's a world, basically. It's not an RPG game or whatever. But essentially, the reason why I mentioned the Park Township thing earlier is that coincidentally, in Radical Earth, the location where my character would live, or is living, which is literally where I live, the park he lives near actually is getting a township. You know, like the Park Town. And it'll have one of those 5 to 9s. And in celebration of the grand opening, they have announced their monthly prize for the month. And it happens to be a bundle with a brand new car and a special edition computer. Now, the brand new car in question is basically a Ferrari, but the company isn't called Ferrari, it's called Andretti. You know, like Mario Andretti. Only the owner of the company isn't Mario Andretti, it's Anton Andretti. No. It's Francis Andretti, I mean. But his son, Anton Andretti, I got that confused, is Anton Marco, who is a good friend of Francis Andretti, which, by the way, Francis's name is short for Francesco, but he's called Francis by his American friends because he just prefers to be called that, so it could fit in a little bit better. But, his longtime best friend, Anton Monaco, his name and the actual place of Monaco was what inspired this vehicle's name. The vehicle in question is an Andretti Monaco GT, which is a fabulous looking 90s sports car. Late 90s in design style. And that's the prize. Like, that's the top prize. You'll also get 100. Wait, no, not 100. 1,000,000. I got that wrong. $1 million. Not real life, I'm talking about in Radical Earth. And you'll also get the. Get ready for a mouthful. Megasoft Enterprises Triumph Monaco GT Edition. So, the Triumph itself is part of a brand new series of computers made by fictional company Megasoft Enterprises, which in and of itself is somewhat of a parody of Microsoft, but it's its own beast entirely. Megasoft has made its own social media, or wait, no. it's been a long day, alright? I'm trying my best to think of everything to talk about without sputtering out of control. I'm just so excited to talk about all this. Anyway, they've made their own operating system called NextOS, which is a play on words with Nexus, but it's NextOS, which is meaning that you are at the center of the operating system. It is centered around you. You use it and it improves around you over time. It uses a specialized artificial intelligence that will learn from you depending on what you use it for. So, say that you like to play games. Whoops. Say that you like gaming. At first, the AI will just be neutral about it. Like whenever you first get your computer with NextOS installed. But as you start doing a thing that you're interested in more and more and more, like playing a game or, watching videos or something, it'll center its focus around that type of topic. So, for example, say that you play a lot of games on your Atlas computer, which is the first series of computers made by Microsoft. And what will happen is that AI will think, it seems this user likes to play video games a whole lot. Maybe I should recommend some games, some software and stuff. Something like that. It's not meant to spy on you. It's meant to improve upon itself so it can learn what you like. And it will use that to its advantage in order to better itself and focus on things that you like. Which is cool. But with the Triumph series of computers comes Next 2, which is NextOS 2.0, which is the newest iteration of NextOS that is also meant to be online. It is supposed to be connected to the internet. And to coincide with this release of both NextOS and the Triumph series of computers, Microsoft has made their own personal routers that people can purchase if they want to in order to better their experience online. They're top of the line, give the user premium access to the internet for an affordable price, which is good. Not only that, but of course, as with the Atlas series of computers, they also offer gaming options for anybody's respective Triumph PC, which can be upgraded just like the Atlas by use of upgrade modules. Basically, it's sort of like getting parts for your actual gaming PC, which I have not done that, which I don't plan to. But basically, upgrade modules are essentially the same as getting a new part for your PC, like a new graphics card or a new stick of RAM or something like that. But those modules are literally modular in that you open up this little flap at the back of the computer or at the front for either storage at the front or, upgradable processing power or graphics power by, plopping into the back. And it's much the same with the Triumph, only the reason why they picked the name Triumph is because they want the user to feel like they could do anything with it. And just like with the Atlas, which was their first series, yay, stuttering. Their first series of next generation computers, they focus on, I forgot what I was saying. Have you ever had those moments where you start talking about something and then you deviate for a split second and then you're just like, your mind just gets wiped. It's like the endings of the Men in Black movies where it's like, sorry, and then you just see the screen fade white. It's basically what it is. Huh? Oh, I heard something. Oh, right. So, Atlas was called Atlas because it was the introduction of the next generation computers made by Megasoft and other corporations like Megasoft. And their core focus of these computers is that as a next generation product, it introduces you to a whole new world of possibilities with the internet and with entertainment in general. But with Triumph, it introduces a whole new level of, you could do anything with this. But with the Atlas, it introduced the best-in-class antivirus system, which is called Guardian. It is a all-in-one... Man, we're going all in on the all-in-ones. It is an antivirus system that protects the user's device from viruses literally all the time. It doesn't impact performance at all. It is always active. And if it detects that there is something that might start up a virus on the computer, it immediately eradicates it straight out the bat, which is neat. Triumph has Guardian Mark II, which is the upgraded version of that. And that coincides with Next 2, which is the introduction of an always online NextOS platform. And what's cool about that is Next 2 comes with something along the lines of this. Anyone remember that? Yeah. I bet you were curious about this. Yeah, so essentially that is basically what it has on there. Is it has an interest, or not interest, but since Next 2 is focused on being connected to the online networks, it comes packaged with NextChat, which is essentially what AIM is right here. Only you don't have to worry about getting hours and hours and hours and hours, like buying extra hours. It's always free all the time. All you need to do is register an account on there. And that's it. There's NextPlay, which is essentially what Steam is. Can't really show it because my webcam is covering it. But NextPlay is essentially the online gaming center for those who like gaming. Like me. There's also the improved version of the Next browser, which was originally on NextOS Mark I, and it's been enhanced to where it's way more streamlined and faster. It's neat. No. Oh, right. There's also compatibility with a, at the moment, and I mean like as of this very moment in Radical Earth, it's not out yet. It'll be coming out this holiday season. But there will be a VR system for the Triumph going forward called NextVR. And one cool feature of it is the integrated social interaction game called ULife. Now, ULife itself is heavily inspired by Second Life / Firestorm here. I will not stream that under any circumstances. I will not mention why. All you need to know is privacy. Anyway, but what it is essentially the VR version of this. But I'll just say this, it's not as NSFW. And yes, that's what I was getting at. But ULife itself is called ULife because it means universal. As in, it's a virtual universe where you can explore, play games, hang out with people. You know, it's essentially a mixture of PlayStation Home and Second Life, if those were mixed together and ran on a VR style platform and eliminated motion sickness. Okay. I could just go on and on and on about this stuff. Oh, by the way, did I mention that Radical Earth has their own next generation looking floppy disk looking thing? Yeah, I actually came up with that this morning. And actually, I thought of it before for like a conceptual Sega console. But then I thought, well, I think it would be better as like a sort of new age floppy disk looking thing. And what it is it's called a flash media disk. And essentially, it looks a lot like a floppy disk. But you don't have that little thing that you can move to the side. And the disc inside is basically a miniaturized version of a CD. Only this CD is scratch and smudge resistant. And what this thing is essentially it's like a floppy disk in design. But in terms of function, it's not a floppy disk. It's basically a CD, but it's in a plastic case that you can't take it out because then it wouldn't work. But it is a new golden standard in physical media for music, entertainment, and games. Also, by the way, you might notice this. I was born like this. My ring fingers are not straight. I was literally born like that. I can't straighten them up no matter what. So if anyone says, you know that one of your fingers aren't straight, right? I was born like it. I was born like that. But this new type of physical media was introduced simultaneously with the impending launch of the Triumph series of computers, which, if you want to know when exactly it'll come out in Radical Earth, again, this is purely fictitious. This isn't an actual real thing. It would be kind of cool if it was, but between you and me, I'm not exactly smart enough to make my own homemade computer with that operating system, so fun to dream, though. But if you want to know when it comes out in Radical Earth, or in this alternative universe, it actually comes out August 6th. That's for early adopters, like people who pre-order. However, people who intend on actually getting it, like, on launch, will have to wait until Monday the 23rd of August, which actually coincides with when people go back to school. So, yeah. Well, like I said earlier, it benefits from the upgrade modules just like the Atlas, only they've been improved to have better connectivity, better compatibility. There's even backwards compatibility if you want, but there's also Triumph exclusive modules, which is nice. Yeah. Now, going back to eco vehicles, or, eco cars, I have mentioned the DeLorean. That is because there's actually a eco car that is a recreation of the DeLorean. And there's even a special variant called the Time Wave, which is a recreation of the time machine. Wait, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? Marty, if you want to make a time machine, you gotta do it with some style. And besides, the stainless steel construction makes it perfect for time travel. I'm not the best at voice acting, but I'm not terrible. I don't even have a job as a voice actor anyway, so. It would be kind of funny, though. This is heavy, Doc. But the vehicle in question is called the Zodiac EV Industries, or no, not Industries, Automotives Paradox. The vehicle is called a Paradox, as a reference to the whole time paradox thing. And the Time Wave is a hyper-stylized version with device-looking caricatures like these, but they don't actually work. They're just there for style. And the good thing is Zodiac did clear it up with local governments in the US, and it is legal because the vehicle itself has a rearview camera that will activate whenever the driver is going in reverse. There's a dash panel that acts as a screen and as GPS. And so whenever you're in reverse, it'll actually show what's being seen from this camera. It's on both the normal Paradox and the Paradox Time Wave. And what's really cool is the Time Wave itself, this variant of the Paradox. So in the actual Back to the Future movies, when the DeLorean's about to activate time travel, you'll see these blue lights glowing around some parts of the car. Someone who owns the Time Wave variant of the Paradox can actually turn those on and off, and even have them pulsing or have a flowing effect where it's like blue energy going through. And the actual booster looking things right here, they'll actually have a subtle orange glow. However, the company has made sure not to make them too bright as to make it to where people are blinded. And the vehicle actually will detect if there are nearby vehicles driving near you, and it'll dim down the lights to where it won't blind people, which is very nice. Also, you sure this isn't a Aston Martin? Don't get me wrong, this looks pretty, but This doesn't look like a DMC-12. Like, don't get me wrong, this looks cool. But it just doesn't, you know, look like a DeLorean. When you think of a DeLorean, you think of this. Right? You think of this. You think of this beautiful 1980s Angel. Which, by the way, is in fact 40 years old this year. It is crazy. It's crazy. Well, it's about to be 40 years old as of this October. But, yeah. Oh, right. So about the Andretti Monaco. What is that based on? I don't know what I'm doing. It is based on well, I'm not really sure. I know it is based on a Ferrari because you know, Andretti is based the Andretti name itself is literally inspired by Ferrari. But the vehicle itself is inspired by, no, not this. It's an Italian car, not Japanese. Trying to see. Oh. Wait, is that? Hold on. Is that? Yeah. So, it's inspired by a vehicle that looks extremely similar to this. It seems a bit older, but yeah. Oh, wait. So it's basically a mixture of this and this. But, the vehicle itself gets the Monaco name from, like I said, Antoine Monaco. I know I said Antoine, but earlier I said Anton. Yeah, weird. But the other reason why it's called Monaco is because of where it was tested, which happened to be Monaco. And the vehicle itself, at least for an eco car vehicle, it had very impressive performance. And I'm not saying that eco car vehicles are meant to be raced. They're meant to be used as, you know, traditional traversal vehicles like a normal car would. But if one's so pleased to race it, then by all means. But the top speed of it was actually 151 miles per hour as tested on Monaco. And that was an average, by the way. According to a straight line test, they reached up to 172 miles per hour before the motor topped out. But what the vehicle uses to reach such impressive speeds is partially due to the eco-fuel amplification system that essentially amplifies the effect of the actual chemical. And it's weird because it also has to do with a additional battery system that is connected to that amplification system. And what it does is it detects when the fuel is inside the vehicle. And so whenever the vehicle is set into sports mode, as it is a sports car, you can have it in civilian mode, which is essentially where, of course, it'll have a speed limiting feature where it'll detect what speed limit it is. And even if the driver of this vehicle tried to press down the gas pedal with all their might, it would only allow them to go up to the speed limit, maybe a little bit faster, depending on if traffic is, you know, being traffic. But if the vehicle is set into sports mode, it'll disengage that limiter and allow the user to reach that high speed. Not really recommended though, as even though eco cars are known for their safety features, as their bodies are the bodies themselves for these vehicles are meant to be extremely rugged and extremely durable, and as such they won't deform much. But it could still pose a safety risk if you get into a wreck or if something happens to the motor, because there is one fatal flaw. There is an internal cooling system for the motor, but if the vehicle is put through too much stress with racing or just driving at high speeds and trying to do a whole bunch of other crazy stuff, like, you know, if you're not careful and in control of your vehicle, it could disengage the coolant system and cause the motor to overheat. However, there is a fail-safe though, and that is that in an emergency where this does happen, a signal will ping out to a nearby emergency station, you know, like a fire department or police department, and it'll radio them that, hey, there's a dangerous situation with this vehicle and the motor is overheating. You need to get somebody here pronto so that way you can take care of it, just in case a fire breaks out. Now here's the thing about eco-fuel. Eco-fuel itself is non-flammable. And like I said, it is also non-toxic. That being said, however, it's got a very noxious smell. As in, it'll cause people who are nearby and get a good whiff of the smell to feel sick for about a day, and it's due to the type of chemical within the fuel. Now the chemical itself, like I said, is non-toxic, and hence the name eco-fuel. It is very much eco-friendly. It won't damage grass and animals that are near it, even if they ingest it, they won't get sick. They'll just, I don't know. Like, they'll get sick, but it's not like dangerously sick to where they'll die. So that is a sort of caveat with this fuel type, but at the same time, in terms of actual environmental effect, there is none. But the fuel itself, if the actual fumes of this come into contact with heat, it will amplify the effect to where it will make someone extremely sick. But like I said, that's the worst that'll happen. It's not going to kill somebody. It's just going to make them sick for a couple of days if that happens. So, yeah. But the vehicle itself is heavily inspired by this. The taillights are different and the headlights are different. And, there's the Monaco GT Standard, and then there's the Monaco GT Roadster Edition, which is basically what this is. It is the Spider. Ah, Spider! Ah! I didn't even know there was a real-life Monaco car. But now that I know this, there's no connection between the Andretti Monaco and the Dodge Monaco. Which, by the way, there is a Radical Earth version of Dodge. And just putting it out there, there are real-life companies within Radical Earth. So there's still Blockbuster, there's still real-life car companies and all that stuff. These other companies, however, are exclusive to Radical Earth. So, 9 to 5 is basically the sister to 7-Eleven. And you can very clearly tell that because of the actual name of the companies, which is 5 to 9 and 7-Eleven. Because, you know, they both say, quite literally in the name, their business hours. Yeah, basically, the Monaco itself has taillights similar to this, only... Okay, so basically, here's how it is. So we have the actual Andretti logo right here, which is actually a, horse's face looking at you, and with wings on the side to look sort of like a Pegasus. And to the side of that, it'll show, no, not Andretti. It'll show Monaco on the top right here. But then what'll happen is, or not what'll happen, but then what there is there's the tail lights, and there's a white, you know, like the reverse light here and a reverse light here. Then, for the actual brake lights, it's this part going up here, and there's a light strip here, and it's the same for this side. And there's actually, you know, like one of those brake lights, because we have the tail lights, which is that big strip I just mentioned. There's the reverse lights, and then we have the brake light, which is right here. And the actual license plate is further down here to accommodate for the space for the brake light. And like I said, up here it'll say Monaco. And on the front of the vehicle, it'll show the same Pegasus logo of the horse looking at you from the front with the wings on the side. And then right below that, it'll have the word Andretti sort of spaced out, where it's like ANDRETTI. But the headlights are essentially a mixture between the 360 and the Testarossa right here. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, duh, it's a 1990s car right here. But the actual headlights, like I said, are a mixture between the between the 360, and then we have what would look like flip-up lights, but for the secondary lights, what it is that the actual cover for those lights will actually slide upwards towards the windshield, which is really cool. It has air intakes sort of like this, but instead of these lines, it's actually like slits. And what's cool is that the vehicle actually has an active spoiler. Man, you wouldn't think of that. And the motor is where a normal mid-engine would be. And it does have a trunk at the front. So, yeah. Now, what other things are there about Radical Earth that I haven't mentioned? Well, for one, we have Radical Earth's absolute love of arcades and all things gaming related. This is partially because of my real love for video games and my love for arcades, even though I haven't been to one in a couple of years. Quite a long time, actually. But, for example, I was talking about the park that my character lives near, or would live near, and just so happens that there's a arcade that will be there called a Arcade Palace. It is supposed to look like a castle of sort. It'll look sort of like a castle, but it's not going to be like the same kind of theme as medieval times. It's called Arcade Palace because the design from the outside is supposed to look like a castle, but on the inside it's like some super 90s style arcade fever dream, basically. You'll have like games over here, games over there. You'll have a concession area where you can get pizza and snacks and stuff. Got a prize area where you can take your tickets and get some cool prizes. They've even partnered up with 5 to 9, so if you want to get some prize passes, they're your guys. They got go-karts, bumper cars, the whole 9 yards, basically. But the actual slogan for Arcade Palace is the kingdom of high scores and fun. It sounds like a weird, medieval joke, but I mean, it's called Arcade Palace for a reason. You wouldn't call something that and make it look like something from the outside without giving it some clever reference to what it's supposed to look like on the outside. Now, they do have a membership program, and they actually have their own mascot for Arcade Palace, and that is actually forgot his name. Oh, King Pixel. King Pixel. And yes, there's a queen. Her name is Queen Quarters. A reference to how back in the day at arcades you would have to use quarters. Of course, at Arcade Palace you get tokens, and I'll get to those in a moment. But there's also a prince that they would have called Prince Playtime, and you'll occasionally see him playing one of the games, and if you happen to see him, you can talk to him, and he may challenge you to a game. Now, if you lose, you'll get tokens from him, but if you win, you'll get tokens and a boatload of tickets, which is really cool. And his whole shtick is that he'll be happy either way, even if he wins or loses, because his family, which is the Royal Arcade line, because their last name, ironically enough, is Arcade, but the actual spelling of it is inspired by the name Arcane. Not Arcane Studios, I'm talking about like Arcane as in like, here, let me pull it up. Arcane definition. Oh, no. Oh, here it is. Understood by few, mysterious or secret. Never mind, I got it wrong. Wait, no. It's Arcadius. So we have King Pixel, whose name is Pixelior. Wait, no. It's King Pixel Arcadius. We have Queen Quarters, otherwise known as Queen Quarters. Not Quarters. Queen Quarter. So her name is Quarter Arcadius. And then we have Prince Playtime, whose name is Playtime, as in Thyme. So it's Playtime Arcadius. And they even have a jester, believe it or not. And their jester's name is the Glitchster. Yeah, weird. But you may occasionally see him, you know, jumping around and all that stuff, going laughing and all that stuff. And if you get close to him, he'll start jumping all around, asking if you want to play a game. You want to play a game? Not quite in the same way as a psychopath, but he'll be like, would you like to play a game? You know, jingling his bells on his hat. Man, I'm thinking of new stuff all the time. Holy shit. And if you say no, then he'll frown for a moment, and then he'll say, oh, it's alright, we can always play another time. But if you say yes, now this isn't playing an arcade game, what I'm about to say. It's more like a random actual thing that you'll have to do within Arcade Palace. And it'll be one of four things. Either challenging you to a go-kart race, which is 3 laps around the go-kart track. It'll be a scavenger hunt where he'll have you sitting in a room for a couple of minutes, and whenever he's ready, he'll come into the room and let you know that it's time to look for stuff. And he'll accompany you, and what'll happen is as you get closer to one of the items, he'll ring his bells on his hat more and more and more. And whenever you actually find the item, he'll say, woohoo! You found it! And the third thing he'll do is challenging you to mini golf, which I haven't gotten to yet. I'll get to that in a moment. It's actually 15 holes of it. I'm kidding, it's 9. And the fourth and final thing is air hockey, which is a classic, man. Come on. You can't challenge somebody without mentioning air hockey. It's like where the boys become the men. But if you manage to complete any of those, you know, whether it be beating him or in the case of the scavenger hunt, finding all of the items within a 25-minute time limit, he'll say, woohoo, you win, good job. And you'll have to wait a while for this next thing, but all it is just he'll get you a prize. And it'll either be a mid-range item from the prize area, it'll be a bunch of tickets, or it'll be some tokens. Now, if it's a prize, he'll say, the people from the great arcade heavens have blessed you with this amazing gift. Take it. It will help you on your journeys. If you get tokens, I'll just go ahead and do that. He'll say, you may need this to further your adventures, good friend, until we meet each other again. But if he gives you tickets, he'll say, I see there are many wares at that shop over there. You may need these. It will help you. Good luck. And occasionally, if there are event nights where they'll have this sort of like themed event, which of course the theme is always going to be Arcade Palace's whole royalty theme. Now, the event night is actually a weekend. Just pointing it out, it is actually a weekend. It'll last from a Friday to that weekend's Sunday evening. And what it is that if you've signed up for it, you'll be spending the night there. Now, just in case that ever happens, they do have dedicated rooms for people to stay in. They have bathrooms for people to go to the restroom and shower and stuff. They'll have their own washrooms. They want it to be more than just another amusement center. They want it to be like an amusement paradise. Think of it sort of like an amusement park, an arcade center, and a small resort all packed up in one. Minus the water park, of course, but this is different. It's basically a video game resort. But what makes these event nights so special, event weekends so special is that they will have a sort of story to coincide with it. And usually the story is that an evil doer, so there's at least in the context of Arcade Palace and its whole fictitious story within, a fictitious setting. But we're talking about Arcade Palace, not Radical Earth. I'm confused. I confuse myself. I'm bamboozling myself. But basically, there'd be an evil mastermind by the name of crap, I can't even think of a good name. Oh. Emperor Chaos. So, Emperor Chaos is actually... It's supposed to be a parody of, how there's multi-million dollar corporations that are just twisted. But the whole idea of it is that it's actually like an evil cult in disguise. And there's an overarching plot that they're trying to secretly get cult followers to raise up a fictitious evil deity known as Nemesis. And it's not, the normal word. It's N3M3 S1S. So it's basically like a virtual evil monster. And this sort of ties into, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but Arcade Palace, their locations, like the actual building itself, is gymongous. So gymongous, I rolled off my thing. But I do mean that the actual buildings for Arcade Palaces are huge. There's no other word to say it, it's just huge. And part of the reason is because of the activities, like the mini golf and the go-karts and all that stuff. But it's also because of the fact that they have some rooms that are dedicated only to these event weekends. Or event weeks sometimes. And one of the rooms is actually where Nemesis sleeps, and it's called the Nemesis Chamber. And according to the actual lore for Arcade Palace and its whole world that it's made for itself, it's a world within a world. But the whole idea is that a very long time ago, an old descendant of King Pixel, whose name is Vectorus the Great, which the name is a reference to vector graphics. He had to fight off Nemesis, and he ultimately sacrificed himself by basically turning himself into a mystical barrier that locked Nemesis into what is called the Helheim Pit, which is, Helheim. Like Norse mythology. But now there is a cult that is comprised of video game inspired Vikings who call themselves the Nemesis Resurrectors, with a Z at the end because style points, I guess. But the actual outfits that they wear are supposed to look like they're pixelated, sort of like voxels. Complete with like pixelated looking horns. You got pixelated looking clothes, pixelated looking shields and swords and stuff, Warhammer and stuff. And what'll happen during these event weekends and event weeks, depending on what they decide on, of course, is that throughout the day you may see these guys wandering around, and they won't try and attack you. They aren't going to be like, "I shall smash you with this sword!" Psh. No, it's just if they happen to see you, they'll come up to you and they'll challenge you to what they call a duel. But it's actually just playing against them in a game like air hockey or on a arcade game or something. And if you happen to win, then they'll act as if they've been defeated and they'll say, "You have bested me! Take this gold!" And you can actually use that for the prize center, which will have a sign on the actual glass desk, like the display cabinet, and that sign will say item shop. Now this is where it gets interesting. Now normally when they don't have event weeks or event weekends, tokens that you get will be used for the arcade games, and they can still be used for that. However, if you happen to be participating in the event, which I'll get to how that works in a little bit, you can use tokens for getting items. And why I mention that is at first these digital Vikings will just challenge you to playing a game with them. But where it gets interesting is that this will only happen during the first day. However, if they see somebody has gotten an item like, say, a sword or a shield or any kind of like armor, which by the way you can actually keep that, it's really cool, it's like a really fancy souvenir. They'll actually challenge you to a battle, and you'll have to go to an area where you and the Viking are logged into a computer, and there'll be two people at the computers. There's one for you, and then there's one for the Viking. And it can even be configured for multiple people if it's like a tag team battle. And the people will actually be watching what's going on, and they'll be able to do inputs on the computers to tell it what's going on. And because of that, say for example, you are fighting against one of these Vikings, and you attack them with a sword attack, like, "Hah!" The Viking will react like, "Oh!" Well, first, you're going to have to actually select who you're going to attack. Voice crack. Who you're going to attack. So, say for example, there's like 3 Vikings. What'll happen is the swords will actually have a indicator on the actual tip of the sword, and it'll detect where you're pointing. And the battle area that I'm talking about will have 3 possible spots for someone to stand. So the sword will actually detect the accurate direction of where you're pointing. So say for example you're going to attack the Viking to your left. So you'll point towards your left, and it'll light a little circle around the Viking that you pointed at. That means that you've targeted them, and then you can say, I'll attack you with a sword, or something like that, or just do a slashing motion, and the actual light will actually flash red to show that they've taken damage. And the person on the Vikings side of the room who is manning that computer will input the actual things that they need to put to, tell the thing what's going on. I know it's kind of convoluted, but whatever. Actually, no, scratch all that. What'll happen is tokens can be used to buy items like potions, right, which are actually flavored drinks. Don't worry, it's basically like Kool-Aid or something. You could get a sword, you could get a shield, but they're not actually going to have that room. It's just something stupid I came up with, but after a while it became clear that I can't think. But what'll actually happen is that the Viking will actually just chase you, and they'll be like, I will defeat you. And what'll happen is, and this is just immersion, this I guess will actually work better. But if the Viking has a sword that can block your attack, but you could also do the same thing if you have a sword. I mean shield, not sword. But you could also block with a sword or an axe or whatever you're using. But you could also get a crossbow weapon, which won't actually have a projectile. But instead it'll have a laser that will actually light red whenever you've armed the crossbow, and there'll be a little pull thing that you pull on the crossbow, and then whenever you're ready to fire, which it won't actually have a drawstring, it's just going to be like a little thing that you pull back, sort of like a bolt on a gun, and whenever you pull the actual trigger, it'll release that, and it'll be like, it'll make a sort of 8-bit sound. And what'll happen is the Vikings have special indicators that they wear that will detect if they've been attacked either by a sword or just any kind of melee weapon, or with the crossbow, or just a bow, which also won't have a string. And if it's detecting that it's been hit, it'll make a beep 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 sound, and the Viking will be like, oh! See, that sounds a lot more realistic than a frickin' over-the-top room. Because I did mention how big the actual building would be, but even I don't think that would be able to fit the battle room. But yeah, the Vikings will be roaming around the building, and what will happen is there's also going to be people watching to see what's going on. Like, there will be moderators, like people watching everything, and if they detect any actual roughhousing, what'll happen is they'll try and, hold off the fight and say, hey, no actual fighting, please. Also, by the way, about the indicator thing that the Vikings wear, people who are actually participating will also wear one. It's going to be like a little clip-on thing they put onto the waist of your pants. It'll do the very same thing as with you, so there'll be Vikings with melee weapons, and there'll be Vikings with a projectile weapon, as in just, it's basically laser tag, but without it actually being laser tag. But if you're tagged out from that, I guess, you'll be instructed to go to a room and sit down for a little while, and eventually a speaker on the indicator device will say, you have been summoned into the fray once more. And it'll happen as many times as, well, you know what I mean. It won't be a limit. It won't be like, oh, after this happens 3 times, you're game over. It's just as long as you're actually participating. But what will happen is these moderators will keep track of how many Vikings are, active in the actual event every single day. And whenever they detect that all of the Vikings have been defeated, they will then bring out a boss. And on the first day of the actual event, it'll be the leader of the Vikings, whose name is Eivor Banhammer. Yeah, Eivor. And he has the Grand Banhammer. It won't actually ban you. It's called that to play into the whole internet / 90s culture stuff. Like gaming culture, basically. But the Banhammer is extremely powerful, though. As in, a normal melee hit will take off 1 hit of health. And how the indicator works is that it'll have a little plug-in that can be plugged. I don't know why I'm doing that. But the actual indicator itself is supposed to be I guess the best way to describe it is sort of like, it's about as big as this, so it's like that big. And the thickness is also this thick. And for one, it has a built-in rechargeable battery. But it also has a plug-in that you can actually plug it into. One of them, which is only for the employees to use, will be for charging. But the other thing is actually the data link point, which is for when you level up and stuff. So what will happen is at the end of the day, people who are participating in the event will be instructed to go to the level room, and what will happen is the players who are called up in whatever order they choose will be instructed to remove their device and give it to the actual person in charge of this. And then what will happen is they'll plug the data retrieval cable into the device, and it'll scan how well the player did. And it'll also scan the player's inventory to see what all they purchased and what all tokens they have. And there'll also be the moderators in there to keep track of how many players are choosing to play, and how many Vikings have been eliminated, and if the boss has been eliminated. And if the boss has been eliminated, then every single player will get a prize, which is a lot of tokens, and they will also get a few free items for the game. Now, typically the actual event week will last 4 days. Event weekends will last 3, but it's basically the same thing, just abridged to be shorter. But essentially what will happen is the first day it's just taking care of the Vikings and Eivor the Grand Banhammer. Day 2 sees Cultists, known as the Nemesis. The Nemesis Relinquishers. So basically their whole goal with this whole story is that they're trying to release Nemesis from the barrier that it was sealed under. And if you defeat enough of them, then you'll have to take on the leader of these cultists by the name of Diabolus. Which, yeah, I know. It isn't a satanic thing, by the way. It's just it's a coincidence, basically. But Diabolus has a sort of devil-looking costume. But it's not like the red guy sort of look. It's sort of like he has glowing horns, he has clawed gloves, and he has a sinister-looking mask. And he uses fire attacks. So it's recommended that you have ice-based things and stuff, because he'll be weak against it. So like an ice crossbow, or like a ice bomb, which is actually like a soft ball that you could throw at him. Not an actual like softball like a baseball, I mean like a squishy ball that you can purchase, and that's called the ice bomb. And what'll happen is, after you defeat him, it's basically the same thing as defeating the boss from the first day. But then we have the third day, which is it's basically okay, so what'll happen is, if it's a weekend, then it'll just be monsters from the underworld, which is where the Nemesis creature is from. But if it's an actual event week, which is 4 days, then the fourth day it's just going to be a fight against Nemesis himself and no other enemies. Well, actually there will be enemies, but what will happen is the building will be structured in a way where you have to follow a set path. The only reason why you would ever need to exit from that path is to go to the restroom or get something to eat or something. But then you can come back to where you were. And you'll have to fight through the enemies. And then Nemesis himself. And yeah. Oh, right. Day 3, you have the monsters from that. And then we have the boss for day 3, which is it's basically Nemesis's right-hand man, or right-hand monster, I guess. And their name is just Emperor Chaos. Otherwise just known as Chaos. I'm kidding. It's not Chaos. It's not going to be the memed name that is from that Final Fantasy thing. Instead, it's just going to be Demiosis. Now, this name actually comes from kind of a weird thing. It actually came from an idea for a boss for a game I came up with called Phantasaria, which actually does make an appearance in Radical Earth as a RPG online game. Although you can play it offline as well by playing the story. So I'm scratching my foot. But the Demiosis in this case is a demonic creature that is basically the same species as Nemesis itself, but it's not evolved to that same level. But if you manage to defeat it, then you'll get items that'll help you on your quest. And if you happen to have been a player that throughout the other days have managed to find a gold-plated chest, you'll get special items that are specifically designed for the final battle. And on the actual day of the final battle, within this little quest thing, there will be a golden chest for the players that manage to find it, that a moderator will tell the players, "Those of you who have found the sacred treasures, please follow me. I will give you what you seek." And the players who haven't been able to find that, because they're pretty well hidden, but one way you'll be able to find them is that there will be a subtle yellow light placed on top of them that will be pretty easy to see if you have good enough eyesight. But the items in order are the golden helmet of Athena, the golden chestplate of Zeus, the golden leg plates of Achilles, and finally the golden boots of Icarus, which will each have their own caricatures on the items depending on what they're supposed to look like. For example, for Athena, it is supposed to be a sort of winged look, but it'll also have a Greek sort of leaf looking thing. I don't know what that's called. But for the gold chest plate of Zeus, it'll have lightning bolts and some spikes on it. Not actual spikes, they're just rounded spikes to look cool. You have the leg plates of Achilles, which will be sturdy looking gold plates, which, by the way, these are all made out of a durable plastic that's lightweight, but it's also very durable. But then we have the boots of Icarus, which will have wings on them. And all together, when you have all four of those items, you will have the fully completed armor set, which is called Armor of the Gods. And what that'll do is it'll give you enhanced attack power and enhanced defense. Yeah, I know, crazy. But on the day of the final battle, if you happen to be a player that found the other items, not only will you get the last of the golden armor pieces, but you'll also get the goddess shield and the angel sword, which is basically a sword, but it has like a glowing orange blade to represent Icarus. And the goddess shield is a reference to Athena, and because of that, it'll have a bluish green look, like a glow to it. And that's because there'll be like lights on stuff. But if you and your friends manage to defeat Nemesis, players will be ranked depending on how well they did. The higher the rank that you get, the better that your end prize will be. So for example, if you happen to be the best of the group, you will get a couple of months for a membership that I'll talk about in a moment for Arcade Palace. You'll also get 1,000 tokens and 1,000 tickets, which is a lot, by the way. But as you get progressively down the list of players who, I'm not saying that they did bad, it's just they didn't perform quite as well, even though they did their best. Their prizes will get, less and less in value, but it's an incentive. It's like, you gotta try your best to be the best. It's not saying, oh, you sucked, try again later. But the membership itself is called the Royalty Program, and of course it's playing into the whole Arcade Palace being its own little world thing. which is nice. But we have the royalty program, and the whole slogan for that is, with this king's blessing, you'll be treated like royalty. With the king's blessing, you'll be treated like royalty. So we have 1 month of the royalty program, 3 months, 6 months, and a whole year. And of course, they will have varying prices. But then about the actual prizes that you can get from the prize center. The lowest end, of course, are the traditional candy and stuff like that. Then we have the tier above that, which is low end. So here's the tiers. Okay, so there's entry level, which is just for people who don't have that many tickets but still want to buy at least something. So it could be one of those little finger dinosaur things, or a Snickers or something like that. But then we have low end, medium end, high end, and top end. So with low end, it'll be something like winning a copy of a movie or a copy of a video game, or something along those lines, or like a toy sorter. Medium range would be a game console or a low-end computer from Megasoft or another company that has provided Arcade Palace with a computer for someone to purchase with tickets. High range is a game console bundle, a computer bundle, and this is something that, despite it being in the high range, you would probably think it'd be in top range, but they only have one top range item. And just like with 5 to 9 and how their prize pass works, they also ship that out monthly. Actually, it's weekly. So the actual top range item that I was about to mention, or no, not top range, high range, is a king's dress set. And basically, the whole point of that is sort of like, it's a piece of history to you. It's like, you worked hard to get that. It's sort of like, you want to be treated sort of like royalty, only, not really, it's for fun. But it comes with a plastic crown, which is painted gold. You got the cape, you got the body armor, got the shoulder pauldrons, you got the fancy stuff, you even got the gold boots. No, facial hair is not included. But it's officially known as the King's Blessing set, and it's basically the same outfit as what King Pixel would wear, and the only difference is that the actual stuff that he wears is a bit higher quality, but other than that, there's nothing else that's different. You'll also get a pretty cool scepter too. But then we have the top range item, which, like I said, changes weekly. So, for example, on the opening week for Arcade Palace, it's not going to be to the same extent of 5 to 9's opening month, where all month long they'll be giving away the top range prize of the Monaco GT car and the computer that's based on it. But instead, it'll actually just be a top-range gaming PC made by a company like Megasoft, or maybe even Megasoft themselves. And it'll come with games, it'll come with all the amenities that you would come to expect from a top-range prize item like that. But you'd best be interested in sinking a lot of tokens, because trust me, it's not cheap. It really isn't. But the good thing is, if you are in the royalty program, aside from being in the event weekends and stuff, which you will have to go onto the website and you will have to go onto your Arcade Palace account, and there'll be an email that you would get. Again, I'm not talking about in real life, I'm talking about Radical Earth. You would get an email and you would be asked, would you like to participate in this? And if you click yes, then it'll say, congratulations, you are now signed in for an excellent adventure. But if you click no, then it'll just say, maybe another time. Yeah. But the thing about the royalty program is, aside from being able to participate in that, you'll also get free tokens whenever you want, which is nice. And you'll get discounts on snacks, and items as well, except for the top range item. That will always be at a fixed price no matter what. And not only that, but depending on the actual royalty level of the membership, you can also get free tickets as well. And that's actually a once per month thing, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I guess that's it. I've talked my heart out about all this stuff. I have so many other cool ideas. Hell, I might come up with some overnight, but basically I just wanted to talk about the lore of Radical Earth and what's different from our Earth and Radical Earth itself, which is a lot, even though, again, Radical Earth does take place the exact same time as our Earth. So right now it's like 11:07, and that means that on Radical Earth, in this case for my character, which is literally a representation of me, but on Radical Earth, it would end up being the same exact time. Same exact date. The only difference is the overall look, feel, everything in this fictionalized universe we call Radical Earth. But with all that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's just one person watching, but I do appreciate it though. Yeah. Thank you for watching. I am very sorry for rambling so much about that one topic about Arcade Palace. It's just, I was coming up with ideas left and right for that, because at first it was just going to be a simple arcade place, but then after a while I thought, you know what, no, it should be something special. So that's what it is. It's a place that happens to have unique stuff that you probably wouldn't find anywhere else. And again, I'm pretty sure that over time I'm going to think about a boatload of other stuff for Radical Earth. You know, Radical Rewind as a whole, in terms of this whole alternative universe, which is Radical Rewind. But, it's really cool. I'm really glad that I came up with it, because it's just so unique. It's so me, basically. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm inflating my ego. It's just, what I mean by this is so me is that I've always loved the 90s and the 80s. And I've also really loved the early 2000s. But, always thought of the concept of us living in an alternative world where it's still, you know, the same exact time as it is now, but it's like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s were still a thing. Like, the overall fashion and everything that was associated with those times was still here. So it's basically like, what if that stuff never left? What if we still had beige computers with essentially a modern operating system, but it still looks retro? It still feels retro. It still is retro in a sense. That's what Radical Earth is. It's essentially past meets present in a wild, wacky, and, dare I say, radical sense. Modern day, but retrofied. Yeah, anyway. Night, and again, thank you for watching. Even if it was just one person, I still appreciate it. Very, very thankful. That being said, I'm really fucking tired, and it's a good thing I already brushed my teeth and put on deodorant, because I might go to bed pretty soon. Who knows, maybe I'll, like, brainstorm ideas overnight. My mind's just always coming up with cool ideas, or dumb ideas, or both. But, yeah, night. Rock on and be rad. That was a terrible... See you